A very fresh and a very pleasant morning to one and all present there. Myself Zainab Kagdi from Atmiya Green School, Jadeshwar, Bharuch. We are back with English subject and today we are going to start a brand new lesson that is from Moments. So here we are having Unit 6 Weathering the Storm in Ersama. So here let us begin. As it is a supplementary reading, first we will undertake the supplementary reading and then we will discuss its explanation. So let us give you a quick review of this lesson. Here the cyclone was hit in Orissa in October 1999 and killed thousands of people and devastated hundreds of villages. For 2 dreadful nights, Prashant, a young man, was marooned on the roof of a house. On the third day, he decided to go to his own village. Did he find his family? To answer this question, let us read the supplementary lesson. So here we are having now you will face a lesson that is regarding storm. Okay, so this cyclone. Okay, cyclone is a kind of disaster. It is a natural disaster. So the cyclone that had hit the Orissa in the year 1999 in October, which had killed thousands of people and had devastated hundreds of villages. So here we will discuss about a story of Prashant, who was a young man who spent 2 dreadful nights on the roof of a house. Okay, that means chat on the roof of a house. On the third day, he decided to go to his village. Let us see if he found his family members or not. We'll read the story. On 27th October 1999, 7 years after his mother's death, Prashant had gone to the block headquarters of Ersama, a small town in coastal Orissa, some 18 kilometers from his village, to spend the day with a friend. So you can see that there is a young man whose name is Prashant. I'll show you. Okay, so this is a story of cyclone that had hit the Odisha. Now we are talking about 27th October 1999. So his mother had died before 7 years, means 7 years after his mother's death. So after 7 years, he wanted to meet his friend and he wanted to spend a day with his friend. So he went to the block headquarters of Ersama. So Ersama is a small village, a small town in coastal Orissa, and it was 18 kilometers away from his own village. So he went there to meet his friend. Moving ahead, in the evening, a dark and menacing storm quickly gathered. Winds beat against the houses with a speed and fury that Prashant had never witnessed before. Heavy and incessant rain filled the darkness. Ancient trees were, as you can see, it is the roof of the house. As you can see, it is a roof. So, as you can see, this is a Prashant. Okay, show it with the green. You can see this is a Prashant, and this is the roof of his house. He had spent 2 dreadful nights. He spent 2 dreadful nights on the roof of a house. As you can see, the water level. You can see the water level. It's coming till here. Almost the whole house had sunk into the flood due to this cyclone. This is a cyclone, and this is Prashant. So now we were on. Heavy and incessant rain filled the darkness. Ancient trees uprooted and crashed to the earth. These ancient trees had uprooted and had crashed to the earth, that had fallen on the earth. Screams rent the air as people and houses were swiftly washed away. So due to this have cyclone, these people were running here and there, and the people and the houses both were were swiftly being washed away by these air. The angry waters swirled into his friend's house, neck deep. So neck deep is here till here. If you're standing in the house till here, the whole water level had filled the house. The building was of brick and mortar and was strong enough to survive the devastation of the wind's velocity of 350 per hour. So 350 kilometer per hour is a kind of a um, very high velocity. It's 350 per hour. So the building that his friend was living in was little quite strong, and it could survive the devastation of the wind's velocity, which was 350 kilometer per hour. This is the velocity of the cyclone or of the water. But the cold terror of the family grew with the crashing of trees that had got uprooted and fallen on their house. So at some time in the middle of the night, damaging its roofs and walls. Now the family people were very much were trembling with fear. They were trembling with fear. Why? Because the big ancient trees were falling on their houses. So ultimately, in the middle of the night, it was damaging the roof and the walls of the house. So it is a sign that their house is going to be drained away by the heavy rainfall. So they were very much they were scared out of these falling of trees. The crazed destruction brought by the cyclone and the surge of the ocean continued for the next 36 hours. So, in a one day, we have 24 hours, correct? So, this terror took place till 36 hours. So, can you see 24 plus 12 equals 36, correct? So, for 36 hours, that is 1.5 day, it continued. Okay, the surge of the ocean continued for the next 36 hours. That means 1.5 day. Although wind speeds had reduced somewhat by the next morning. So the day when he reached there, it was very a dangerous situation at that place, and the environment was very scary, and to escape the waters rising in the house, Prashant and his friend's family had taken refuge on the roof. On the roof means and on the top of their house. They had taken refuge. That means they had they went at the top of their house, that is on the roof of the house, and was like surviving there. They were saving their life in that way. Prashant will never forget the shock he experienced at his first glimpse of the devastation wrought by super cyclone in the grey light of the early morning. A raging, deadly, brown sheet of water covered with everything as far as the eye could see. Only fractured cement houses still stood in a few places. Bloated animal carcasses and human corpses floated in every direction. All round, even huge old trees had fallen. Two coconut trees had fallen on the roof of their house. This was a blessing in disguise because the tender coconuts from the trees kept the trapped family from starving in the several days that followed. So, dear students, what is this paragraph trying to say? That they had to wait on for 1.5 day, that means for 36 hours this continued, this cyclone and this heavy rainfall and this wind, these all continued for next 36 hours, but the speed of the wind had reduced a bit still since next morning till next morning. And to escape the rising water, if they stayed in the house, in their friend's house, then they would have drawn easily in their house. So in order to escape from draining in the house, they went on the roof of their house. And Prashant could never forget these whatever he has experienced, that first glimpse of the devastation when he used to see here and there from the roof of the house, he saw that everything was destroyed. All the cement, only fractured cement, that is half broken houses, still stood in few places, while the animals, while the humans, they floated in every direction. And all around, even huge old trees had fallen. The big trees, the huge trees had fallen, and two coconut trees, a big coconut trees, had fallen on the roof of their house. So this was a blessing in disguise. That means, what does this mean? A blessing in disguise. That means in the worst situations, in your crisis, when you are blessed with a blessing, when you get a favor from the God in the crisis, that is called a blessing in disguise. When something wrong happened and you are benefited from that wrong thing, then it is called a blessing in disguise. So these the two coconut trees had fallen on their houses, so it was a blessing in disguise. Why? Because if the trees had not fallen on their roof, what would have happened? They would have starved, they would have stayed hungry for 2 days. So they couldn't go down in their houses because everything was like sunk inside the water. And if they went inside the house, then there would be no chance to for them to save their life. So they had to stay on the roof, and they had to spend nights over there and days over there. And they were hungry, so there was nothing to eat. But these two coconut trees had fallen on their house, so it gave them coconuts to eat. So for several days they just survived on eating coconut and drinking coconut water. For the next 2 days, Prashant sat huddled with his friend's family in the open on the rooftop. They froze in the cold and incessant rain. The rainwater washed away Prashant's tears. So now for the next 2 days, Prashant sat huddled with his friends, family in the open rooftop. Okay, and there was a lot of cold because due to this cyclone, this heavy wind and this speedy wind, there is a lot of cold environment, and they froze in the cold. And incessant rain, that means the unstoppable rain. Due to that, they froze in the cold, and the rainwater washed away Prashant's tears because Prashant was very much scared. He was afraid then what would turn next, and he was afraid that he would die out of this pandemic. That is, out of that disaster, he would have died and he would have starved. So he used to cry there, but this heavy rainfall had washed away his tears. The only thought that flashed through his mind was whether his family had survived the fury of the super cyclone. Was he to be bereaved once again? That means he was scared. What was haunting his thoughts was, is his family okay or not? Are they surviving this super cyclone? What would have happened with them? I am here saved with the friend's family, but what would have happened with my own family? Will I be ever able to meet them? So these questions were going across in his mind. So this was a story of Prashant. We will understand the rest of the story in our next class. So kindly, I'll request you, please read out the supplementary on your own, as this supplementary um, is just for your developing your reading skill, your comprehending skill. So kindly do not wait for my next video to continue the story. You can read out the whole story for your better understanding. So till that, please read the whole supplementary. If not, then read at least 2 pages till we have completed. Unit 7, Weathering the Storm in Air Salmon.